On February 22, 2026, Cardinal Robert Sarah published an essay in Le Journal du Dimanche titled "Before It Is Too Late." His target? The SSPX's planned July 1st episcopal consecrations without papal mandate. His message? Obedience to the Pope is everything. One cannot claim to disobey the Church in order to save it, Sarah wrote. Disobedience to the Pope cannot be the ordinary path of salvation for souls. It is through obedience that Christ saved the world. Powerful words, but they have prompted an open letter asking difficult questions, not about the SSPX, but about the silence of church leaders on other matters. First, understand the Cardinal's position with fairness. Sarah speaks from a deep theology of unity. He quotes Saint Catherine of Siena, "Always obey the shepherd of the Church, for he is the guide whom Christ has established." Cardinal Gerhard Muller similarly urges the SSPX to submit to Pope Leo's authority without preconditions, noting that heresies throughout history were only overcome by those who remained in the Church and did not turn away from the Pope. These are not unreasonable arguments. They reflect 2,000 years of Catholic ecclesiology. Yet the open letter raises questions many faithful are quietly asking. Where was Cardinal Sarah's voice when Pope Leo welcomed Father James Martin, S.J., a priest whose approach to sexuality has caused widespread confusion? Where was his public outcry when an LGBTQ pilgrimage of some 1,400 people entered St. Peter's Basilica as part of the official Jubilee program? One participant, a transgender woman from Brussels, expressed hope the Church would see LGBTQ people as part of the same family. Where was his defense of traditional moral teaching when African bishops, representing a vibrant and growing portion of the Catholic population, issued their response to Fiducia Supplicans? They reaffirmed loyalty to the Pope, but stated plainly that blessings for same-sex couples cannot be carried out in Africa because they contradict natural law. Their voices seemed muted in Rome. Where was the outcry when Pope Francis revised the Catechism on the death penalty, declaring it inadmissible in all cases, a statement that sits uneasily with Scripture, St. Thomas Aquinas, and centuries of magisterial teaching? Where was the defense of the unborn when Pope Leo reportedly suggested that the death penalty is the only truly pro-life position? And where were the cardinals during COVID when many dioceses worldwide closed churches, denied the Eucharist, and refused last rites to the dying? The SSPX, whatever one thinks of their canonical status, kept the Mass alive. In California, an SSPX priest successfully sued the state, obtaining an injunction that barred discriminatory restrictions on worship, a victory benefiting all Catholics. One commenter noted, "It was not the bishops who fought for our rights, it was the much-maligned SSPX." This raises a painful question. If obedience is the supreme virtue, why is it selectively applied? Why are traditionalists condemned for disobedience, while liturgical abuses, doctrinal ambiguities, and pastoral experiments meet with silence? The open letter mentions a father of 8 children, most in their 20s, who've lived their adult lives under 2 pontificates marked by controversy. They've seen blessings for same-sex couples welcomed, the ancient Mass suppressed, the death penalty teaching reversed, communist governments given a role in choosing bishops. Some have left the Church, others stay, confused and hurting. The letter raises with hesitation a historical possibility some traditionalists consider. Church history records some 37 documented anti-popes from the 3rd to the 15th century. The Great Western Schism saw 3 claimants simultaneously. In such times, the faithful discerned true authority by clinging to the faith once delivered, not by blind obedience to any claimant. This is not to suggest Pope Francis or Pope Leo are anti-popes. That would be a grave charge. But the precedent reminds us that the Church has survived periods when the identity of the true Pope was unclear. What sustained the faithful then was adherence to perennial truth. The open letter concludes with a plea. Cardinal Sarah should consider that his silence on certain matters may aid the very confusion he seeks to remedy. He should speak not only against the SSPX's disobedience, but against the errors and ambiguities that drive traditionalists to despair. I have concern for your soul, Cardinal Sarah. By your silence, you may be aiding the confusion of the little ones. Before it is too late.